Welcome to your daily dose of salt and light with myself, Nadine Ness. Today is February 27th, Thursday, right? Yeah, Thursday, February 27th. We are going to be talking about a couple of things today. I'm hoping for this episode not to be super long. We're going to talk about the Epstein list that's supposed to be released today. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to be showing to you guys where it said that it's going to be released. We're going to talk about the cancellation of Elon Musk and Wayne Gretzky, as well as Alberta, Saskatchewan separation sentiment building and what Scott Moe and Danielle Smith have been saying in light of a lot of pressure for separation. Let's just say, and even Trump is addressing this. So we're going to cover that. But first, I'll get into the big topic that's going to be dominating Twitter in the next couple of days, likely today as soon as it gets released. And that is the Epstein list. And I'll play this video first so you guys get to to see it here. Give me a sec. I just got to find the right one. There you go.
Said last week that you have the Epstein files on your desk. When can we see them, and what's taking so long to release them?
I do. Jesse, there are well over, this will make you sick, 200 victims. 200. So we have, well over 250 actually. So we have to make sure that their identity is protected and their personal information. But other than that, I think tomorrow, the personal information of victims. Other than that, I think tomorrow, Jesse, breaking news right now, you're going to see some Epstein information being released by my office.
What kind? Are we going to see who was on the flights? Are we going to see any evidence from what he recorded? Because he had all of his homes wired with recording devices.
Yeah. What you're going to see, hopefully tomorrow, is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information, but it's pretty sick what that man did.
Okay, well,
along with his co-defendant.
Absolutely, and he had help. That's for
sure.
He
sure did.
Interesting. So that's supposed to be released today. If you're watching and you see it getting released on Twitter somewhere while I'm filming this episode, please let me know in the comments. I just did a quick look just before I started recording. I didn't see anything yet, but Pam Bondi is saying it's getting released today. Now, there was a lot of people asking why hasn't it been released yet? And I think an indication as to why Pam just alluded to it. There's a lot of victims, not just the offenders, but there's a lot of victims that are in these documents, and these are children, and you don't necessarily want the children's name to be exposed to the public or personal information. So I could see how they have to go through all those documents to kind of remove and cross off like information about the victims. Now she's saying that's just pertaining to the victims. We do this, like as a former police officer, when we do this as well when it comes to court cases, especially when it comes to children, which this is the case. We protect that information from getting out to the public. So I could see how that could take some time, because you don't want a victim's name to be released either. That, especially when it comes to crimes like this, there's a lot of shame kind of attached to that. And like, even when I was a child, some of my viewers know this already, I'm a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And even when I came forward, all of that documentation was being sealed because I was a child at the time. So I mean, I talk about it publicly, but not every victim who's been involved or who's been victimized by these people want that information out there. It does follow you. So anyway, so that I'm glad that it's getting released today. If you're watching, let me know where you're watching from. And also, if you see it come up while I'm filming, please let me know. So with that, there was another thing I wanted to share a little bit. Here it was a post. I'm just going to switch screens. Alina Habas says she just met with Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and does expect the Epstein list to come out today, describing it as shocking. Habas says she absolutely believes, absolutely expects criminal charges to come as a result. Arrest needs to come quickly so fiends, these friends can't flee the country. And I agree. So it's going to be interesting to see who is going to be on that list, who's going to get charged. But what I'm really glad to see is that I'm just noticing here for some reason it's not showing up properly. There you go. It's going to be interesting to see who's on that list. If you have some suspicions on who, I'm curious as to just if Justin Trudeau is going to be on that list, if I'm completely honest, and who else that might be high profile government officials or maybe judges, lawyers, I don't know, but I think a lot of us have been thinking this day would never come, but now it's looking like it is. And I'm super excited about the fact that this is actually going to come to light as someone who's fights against human trafficking, who fights to protect children from sexual abuse. I'm really excited that this is finally going to come to light, and all of it is going to get exposed. But even when you watch Pam's video, she says it's sickening, but she didn't she was kind of vague a bit, but I think she kind of has to be, being in the position that she's in. But I'm just going to, while we're on the show here, I'm just going to quickly see if there's anything that's been released. Wouldn't it be something if it came out? Epstein list. Let's see. I think it'll be no, nothing yet. But I will play this video actually here. It's a couple minutes long, but it's Alina Haba. Oh, it will be dropping in a few hours, and that was 34 minutes ago. Let's watch this video. Let's see what they say on Pierce Morgan.
Jeffrey Epstein files, we're told, are to be imminently unleashed. And already we saw the Attorney General Pam Bondi say that the scale of what happened is far worse than anyone realized. Well over 200, maybe 250 victims, and that we're going to get information either later today or tomorrow from these files. What can you tell me about that?
I believe it will be today. I was just with, I saw Pam and Cash in the White House just before coming on your show. And I can tell you that I haven't been privy to it yet, but I know it is coming out. They will be taking portions of it. We have to be patient. And I said this last night at a dinner with some media. And I said, I think America needs to remember one thing. We are going to be promises made, promises kept. But when you're dealing with victims, and by the way, this is a perfect example of a case that was vetted, that went through trial, that had testimony, and was prosecuted the right way. I don't preemptively attack. That's just not the way I operate. But in this case, in Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
Is it going to be shocking?
I don't see how it's not shocking that there were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable. Let's talk about the reverse. I believe in accountability. So you have to now go through your process. Now, I won't say they're guilty until they go through their time in court. But again, now it's time for accountability. We have seen for so many years, Pierce, in this country, many investigations, subpoenas, testimonies in Congress, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a general frustration with accountability. We take it halfway. We don't take it full. And I really believe that now with Cash and Pam, there will be accountability.
And we know that only one person so far has actually gone to prison over that whole scandal. It was Ghislaine Maxwell, the former lover of Jeffrey Epstein. No man so far has actually been put in prison as a result of what happened. Do you think by releasing information from these files, we are likely to see criminal actions being taken?
Absolutely.
Really?
I think it would be negligent for us not to. You
But
have to
why hasn't
hold
it happened yet?
individuals who are indeed rapists accountable. We have to have them tried, in my opinion. And I do believe in that. You know, nobody should be just dismissed. You have to have your time in court, and your case will be heard. But to hide lists, to protect political friends, all of that, we don't have time for that.
Interesting. Some of the comments says, when I asked who do you think is on that list, someone suggested Mark Carney. And you know what? That's not that hard to believe, considering Mark Carney is actually connected to Ghislaine Maxwell in a way. His wife is friends, or his wife's cousin went to school with. Here, I'm just trying to bring it up. Just Maxwell. And he's been photographed with them before in the past. Here. That's actually a funny tweet. But let's see. Here's more photos. And this has been confirmed to be true, that he was at an event with her. So I'm curious as well if he's going to be one of the ones kind of connected. Trudeau, Bunny Dirksen said Trudeau is likely on there. And Hitchhiker says flight log is not damning evidence. I agree. Flight log might just mean an association, but it doesn't mean that they committed the crime. So he says abused people need to step forward and spill the beans. I agree. There was a video this morning. I think I saved it in my bookmarks. Let me just have a quick look here. It was an abuse victim who had come forward. I thought I saved it. And she had come forward like way back when, but the FBI wouldn't listen to her. Oh, I didn't save it. I'm just checking to see. Oh, I think you're Bunny. I think you're responding. Yeah. He was friends with Maxwell. They ran in the same circles. And you'll notice that a lot of these people run in the same circles. And this is something that I recognize or realize when I was in DC last week. We always like assume like these elitists or if people who start becoming famous kind of get involved in these circles quite quickly, and we think it's all like organized and meticulously organized where they recruit them in. I don't believe that. And I'll explain why. I think there is some coordination to some extent when somebody starts rising to fame. I think these people who are involved in evil things will eventually try to infiltrate or influence. And I've noticed that even myself as an organization, just these snakes that will approach me to try to have influence on me. And I've kind of come to realize over time I have to be careful with who I allow close, especially with the work that I do in Saskatchewan and having the political influence that I do as leading an organization that's so big that represent a big portion of the province. But one thing that I notice when you go to these events, it's so easily how quickly you can get connected to people of very high influence. Like I mentioned, I was invited to like a Doge party that was like by invite only. Your name had to be on a list. And how I got invited, I was at CPAC on an escalator with someone who I just like joked as I'm going up and kind of say what I do. and why I'm there. And he's like, oh, you should come to this party. And I go to this party, and I meet these people who are super interconnected to like the White House, and make friends with some of these people. And I'm thinking, wow, all it takes is one conversation. You're kind of connected and in. And that's a reality of like all of these people. I don't think like they just all get recruited. I think they just show up somewhere where all these people are, and then automatically you're now like one of them. Or, and I'm not talking about just elitists. I'm just talking about influential groups or influential landscape to a certain extent. So like even I went to CPAC last week because I wanted to go there and hopefully meet some people that I could bring on my show to give my show a little bit more credibility so it would grow more throughout Canada. And hopefully we could implement some of the stuff work we've done in Saskatchewan and other provinces when it comes to parental rights legislation, when it comes to school boards, getting people elected to school board, getting people involved at the provincial election, help pick candidates, MLA candidates or MPP candidates that are along the same lines of our values. So I went there hoping I would meet some people, and I met like a lot of really awesome people who will probably be coming on my show. But it's a little different too in Canada, because in order for me to get someone to come on my show in Canada, for Canadians to know who they are, they have to be a pretty big deal in the US, and those people are a lot harder to access. They're not as easily accessible, and most of them are so busy with doing big stuff in the US that they don't consider coming to Canada. But even then, I still connected with some people. I got to talk to Michael Knowles, which I'm hoping I'll reach out to him again and hopefully he'll come on my show. But it's not what people think. And I got a glimpse into that world when I was in DC, and I came back a little bit nostalgic, like having all these questions for myself, the direction of my life. And I'm being open and upfront with you guys, because I'm like, the world is highly influenced by money, like highly influenced by money. And I'm one of those people. I get influenced by like our country going in the right direction, the future for my kids getting better, and them having more opportunity than they have. But not everyone is motivated by that. I think a lot of things money talks. I was invited to go to the Waldorf Hotel. I kind of joke about this. I'm like so out of my element. I'm like this little girl from Saskatchewan who's not made of money. Anyways, I'm invited to this Waldorf hotel where one drink is like 20 some dollars, and there's all these people. I think it's a Waldorf Astoria. I can't even say it. But all these people in there are like multimillionaires. Like to stay at that hotel is like $1,000 a night. And I'm sitting there. I wasn't drinking. I had a nice tea. I don't drink when I go to events like this, but it's a different world. It really is, and it got me to kind of reevaluate. Is that like the world that I want to associate with? I don't know. I'm undecided on that. The conversations though that I've had were really I'm still coughing. Really interesting. But it is a different world. And I came back and I was talking to Jonathan about it. I'm like, DC is a whole nother level. You're either in that world or you're not. It's like I'm going there. Like all of these, like I went to a fundraiser, so the Ronald Reagan dinner, I got snuck in there. I didn't have tickets. They were sold out by the time I went. But I went there and they were doing like an auction for like dinner with certain people, an auction for dinner at Mar-a-Lago, and they were selling for like 30,000-40,000 a piece. And I'm like, why am I here? Somebody will pay $40,000 to have a dinner with someone. So yeah, it's another world. And it was disappointing to see how much influence money has in politics, especially in the US. And then when I came back, I talked to Jonathan. I said, Saskatchewan, I don't think is like that as much. I don't think it is. Maybe because there's just not as much money put into politics here, but yeah, like even when I was at that Doge party, I got invited to like this other like kind of private VIP room that not everyone at the party could go, and there was like billionaires in the room and millionaires in the room. Hitchhiker says, "I'd have dinner with anyone who will just buy it for me." And so the CPAC is at this, it's called the National Harbor, and this is where the conference is. And I remember the first day I get there, I hadn't had lunch. I went to go get my badge, and I meet up with another Canadian who is there, and we decided to go have lunch at there's like a steakhouse in the same complex, and I'm sitting there. The cheapest thing on the menu is like $60 American, and $60 American for the cheapest like steak. I'm like, I'm gonna leave here like completely broke. Bunny asked, "Were you scared?" No, I wasn't. I was invited into this room, and this was the room that Elon Musk apparently was supposed to go into. So I almost met Elon Musk, but this is what I've heard. His security detail came and determined it was too much of a risk, so he didn't end up coming. So I didn't get to meet Elon Musk, but I met other people who were there. Like I said yesterday in the show, the soon to be president of Haiti was in that room. But there was a lot of people, and again, I don't drink, and I didn't see any drugs, so it wasn't like one of those like weird Hollywood parties where there's things that happen that aren't supposed to happen. If it had, I would have left. But there was no drugs. I didn't see anything like that. And I'm trained to see that, like as a former cop. So it wasn't like that at all. It's just like very highly influential people were in that room, like governors and stuff. I didn't know who everyone was, but I did meet Mike Benz. So if you follow Mike Benz, him and I had a really good conversation. I met a few other people who are in that kind of world. I met like some people who work at the White House. And mind you, this was like a Doge party. So it was like all Republicans, people on the right. So maybe that's why we didn't see some of that stuff. But but yeah, it's a whole nother world. And the following day I was invited to go to like this brunch too. And then the former president of Brazil was there and his son. So I didn't get to talk to them. But Brenda says motivation is key. It's one of the first things I want to know about people. And yeah, and like the people that I talked to in that room even were people, like good people. But it was just interesting to see, like I read people, I profile people, just seeing the interaction. You could easily spot who was like really rich because everyone was kind of like talking to them, idolizing them, and it was strange, but it was interesting. It's definitely like a core memory if you watch the show. What's it called? The yellow core memory. It was really interesting. But I came back and thinking, "Oh, the world is so gross." Did you meet Pam Bondi? No, she wasn't in that room. But what I mean is the world is so gross. Like money does control so much. Have you guys seen the show, not the show, the new song by McDonald? My husband sent it to me. Tom McDonald, Man in the Sky. If you haven't seen that song, maybe I'll play it at the end here. I don't want this episode to go super long, but that song, I came back and Jonathan sent it to me. He's like, it's our song. And it just kind of makes you go and see this world where there's all this money, power, influence, and you come back to like small little Saskatchewan and you're like, what's your role in all of this? Like, are you meant to be in that world or are you not? And it just made me reevaluate or look at reevaluating my life and what God, I'm like just kind of bringing it back to the Lord. God, what do you want me to do? Like what are the steps you've ordained for me? Maybe it is in that world. Maybe I'm an Esther type person where I'm supposed to go in front of the kings and influence the kings or the king, whatever. Not the king, but I'm talking biblical terms. But it was one of those I came back like just with so many questions and a different perspective. With that, let's talk about the next subject. I'll cover this quickly. Mark Carney. Mark Carney's not who he portrays himself to be. I'll play the video too after. It's only a minute long, but I'll read out first what Pierre said. Mark Carney blatantly lied to Canadians last night. He claimed he had nothing to do with moving his company headquarters to Trump's America, even though he chaired the meeting where the decision was made and wrote company shareholders endorsing the move. If he won't protect jobs in his own company, why would he protect yours? If Carney wins, Canada loses. Let's watch this video here. Let's see what Pierre's been doing a good job.
You were the vice chairman at Brookfield Asset Management prior to
the chair.
You were the vice chairman at Brookfield Asset Management prior to
the chair. I was the chair.
Sorry. In the fall, they moved their head office from Toronto to New York. Did you approve of that decision? And what does this say about your commitment to growing Canada's economy and betting on Canada as of now?
Okay. So two things. I'll just correct a few factual things. One, I was chair of Brookfield Asset Management. I ceased to be chair on the 15th, I think, of January. The formal decision of the board, happened after I ceased to be on the board.
He's lying.
The formal decision of the board, happened after I ceased to be on the board.
I'm glad Pierre, that the Conservatives are exposing this. Do we think it's gonna lead to, there's another video here I'm gonna show here. I'm just gonna make it bigger. Actually, first I'll read the tweet. So it's another one by Pierre. Sorry. I'm thinking and not finishing my sentence. Sometimes I do that. I'm glad that Pierre is exposing who Mark Carney really is. I have a whole bunch of concerns if he gets in. I'm going to share that with you as well. But the man doesn't have any attachments to Canada or making Canada better. I think he has more attachment to his own ideology and values. And that goes right along with the climate change crisis, all of that, carbon tax, just destroying the oil and gas sector. And I think when he does get in, it's going to happen. Now, it's not new that liberals are known to lie. So it doesn't shock me that Mark Carney is lying through his teeth. Now, the question is, are Canadians going to be made aware of those lies? And are they going to recognize the true threat that Mark Carney poses? And I think we're going to need to do a lot of work. We as in Conservatives are going to need to do a lot of work to show Canadians who are completely brainwashed by mainstream media. We're going to need to be the ones to show them the truth. And I think each one of us has that responsibility, because I don't think mainstream media is going to completely show it. I think they're going to cover for Mark Carney the same way they've covered for the Liberals over the next few years. And the polling shows that they are covering for him because the Liberals are going back up in the polls. And I do believe that to be actually happening. I don't think it's just fake momentum being built by polls. I think it's actually happening based on my own experience with some who used to vote or still will be voting Liberals, I guess. The sentiment of some of the people that I know who are in the middle is that, oh, Trudeau's gone now, so we're going to be in better hands. I don't think that's the case. Now, what do I think we could do as everyday people? I think one of them is the West. The West is awake to this. Saskatchewan, Alberta is awake to this. And I think we're going to have to give an ultimatum to the East. Hey, if you go in this direction, we're out. And I think that's going to be happening. But anyways, I'll play this video quickly. I'll share the tweet. So the Liberal minister says Carney was just putting his shareholders first when he moved his company's headquarters out of Canada to the US. That says two things. Carney puts money ahead of the country. Carney believes that after his last 5 years as Trudeau's economic advisor, the US is a better place to do business than Canada. Both 1 and 2 are reasons he should not be prime minister. Sign for a petition for a prime minister that will put Canada first. Here, let's play this video. I just got to switch screens.
What I would say is, irrespective of this particular instance, anyone who knows anything about business knows that boards actually have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders. I wasn't in the room. I don't know what the conversations were, but I know Mr. Carney is a man of very high ethics. At the end of the day, his job as a chairman of a board is to act in the best interest of shareholders. I'm sure he did that, but in terms of the specifics, you've got to ask Mr. Carney.
No, they're saying, yeah, just basically like the tweet said. He put the shareholders first. Okay, going along with this momentum, I'm going to play this video. This momentum of one of the roles that we have in the West is to show the East, hey, if you keep electing these people who are destroying our province, Western alienation is skyrocketing. It's only going to get worse. So I was in DC. I talked with many people. Some of the people that I talked with was from the White House. Some of them were reporter. I don't know who this Brian is. So I don't know if I'm the one he's referring to in this. But anyways, I'm going to share this video with you guys. And then I'll go back to my tweet here.
Can I shift our attention to Canada real quick?
Yes, please.
Last week, I spent some time with 2 government officials for Canada.
I'm not a government official.
How realistic is it that Canada would be the 51st state?
Yeah.
And they told me there is a path. Alberta is first, and if they sign on, Saskatchewan would follow, and then you go west to British Columbia. There is a movement in Canada to join us. I want to get your thoughts on that and how that's proceeding.
So it's true. Thank you, Brian. It's true. A lot of people in Canada are liking becoming our beautiful, cherished 51st state. They'll have to pay much lower taxes. They'll have the ultimate security. You know, they don't pay very much for security right now because they rely on us.
Can I shift our attention to Canada real quick?
Yes, please.
I'm curious as to what else he said there. This video was cut out. So they're talking about Alberta joining the US first and then Saskatchewan to follow. I did tweet about this. I said funnily, wait a minute, I was in DC last week having conversations just like these. And these were the conversations that I had with some of the Americans. They said, it's funny, the American sentiment in the US, they don't quite understand our political climate in Canada. They don't understand even like our structures and stuff for the most part. Even people who were from the White House, they don't understand. They're like, oh, it's good that Trudeau resigned, right? And I'm like, oh, I don't think you understand what this means. We're having a leadership race right now for the Liberal Party. Whoever wins that. It's like the primary. So I use their terms. I said it's their primaries. Whoever wins that becomes the next prime minister. And then there's probably going to be an election. We don't know when that's going to happen. But because the Liberals are gaining momentum in the polls, it's likely going to be soon. And there is a risk that Mark Carney is going to win the next election. If that happens, he is going to destroy Alberta and Saskatchewan. And I honestly believe that to my core, based on everything that I've seen, based on the direction Trudeau has gone under Mark Carney's advisements in the last few years. I honestly believe that he's going to go and attack Alberta and Saskatchewan and the oil and gas and the natural resources. I believe that's going to happen. And I said, when that happens, Alberta and Saskatchewan will become more apt to want to separate from Canada, because if you have Ottawa telling them you can't thrive, you can't do this, you can't produce oil and gas, what's that going to do to Alberta and Saskatchewan? It's going to destroy it. And I think Western alienation is going to skyrocket, and there's going to be calls to demand for a referendum. Referendum is the same thing Quebec did when they voted to see about removing themselves from the Federation, from Canada, and becoming an independent country. Now, why is the US something that Alberta, Saskatchewan might consider joining? Well, Alberta and Saskatchewan doesn't really have access to a port to get the market to the world. They'd have to go through Canada. If Canada is stopping that, which they already are, what does that leave us with? That leaves us looking to the US. Now, the US is going to want to get the best deal they possibly can for these natural resources. If they're our only buyer, they know they have the upper hand. However, if Alberta and Saskatchewan joins the US, then it's not a competition anymore. It's not us versus you. It's all of us together. And I do believe if Mark Carney wins and he does do what I think he's going to do, I think the Western alienation is going to go way up. And there's going to start being real discussions about what would be in the best interests of Alberta and Saskatchewan. Now, I'm still undecided. I'm still on the fence. Why? Well, most of my family are from the East Coast. I still have an attachment to the East Coast. I still have an attachment to Canada. I was a former Mountie. I used to have a lot of pride into the Red Surge, the I guess what Canada is or what Canada could be. So I'm still like not 100%. My husband, though, I will admit to you guys, he's like full on Western separatist. Like he cheers me on when my sentiment goes in that direction. We're actually gonna hopefully on Saturday have an episode, him and I. So we're gonna talk about Western separatism on our show on Saturday. So it's also my husband's birthday, or not birthday. He's a February 29th baby. So technically he doesn't get a birthday this year. But yeah, Saturday we're going to have a discussion on that. So you guys will get to kind of see the banter that we have back and forth. So yeah, and I kind of joke. I'm like, Governor of Saskatchewan, that may be something I'd consider. As in running for, I have no interest in running for premier or politics, provincial politics in Saskatchewan, but governor I might consider. I was just kind of joking about that, but I was joking with Americans too. They're like, so are you going to run for governor if Saskatchewan joins the US? So here's my thoughts. If Mark Carney goes in that direction and starts destroying opportunity in Alberta and Saskatchewan, I will be pushing for separation, because you can only handle so much alienation, Western alienation, till you say enough's enough. And just even seeing in the last 10 years how much Alberta and Saskatchewan has been stifled by the federal government, and not just I think all of Canadians have, but I think here even more so, because I know the potential we could have as a province and the potential Alberta could have as a province. And when you cancel things like the East Coast pipeline, getting our products to market, when you cancel that, when even like, I don't know if you guys remember a few years ago, with the whole Yahweh thing. Like Trudeau was purposefully pissing off China. Who did that affect the most? The farmers in Saskatchewan. They said, fine, we're not going to buy your grains. And it completely devastated farmers in Saskatchewan. And whose fault was that? That was Trudeau, specifically causing issue. They hate the West. Like the Alberta elites, the Liberal Party hates the West. And every single actions they've done has proven that over the last 10 years. I'm just going to read some comments here. Okay, check President Trump's Truth Social tariff still coming for Canada and Mexico March 4th. Yes, I actually have it here on my screen. Oh, first I'll say, okay, what is Scott Moe doing about this? One of the things that Scott Moe posted yesterday is effective immediately. All pipelines permit going east, west, and south received in Saskatchewan will be considered pre-approved. We encourage all provinces and the federal government to do the same. Interesting. He tagged Justin Trudeau and real Donald Trump. So Donald Trump's account. Interesting. So he's saying we're going to approve all pipelines. Now, Danielle Smith quote tweeted that, and she says, I have asked my officials to see how we can align with Saskatchewan. It's time for Team Canada to get serious about our economic energy security, nation building, and growing our economy. Alberta remains one of the most business-friendly jurisdiction in North America, and I have repeatedly emphasized Alberta's willingness to work with other provinces and federal government to develop new pipeline projects across the country as soon as possible. So I love that she's saying we're aligning with Saskatchewan. I love that they're teaming up. Now, in the video that I just played about Trump being asked about Alberta, Saskatchewan, the reporter said, I've been talking to government officials. Obviously, I'm not a government official, so I don't think he was talking about me, but I'm curious as to which government officials he was alluding to. Lady of Lake CA says, I'm a boomer. The West has always bent over to East and treated like garbage. It's true. And Hitchhiker says, if Alberta and Saskatchewan left to become the USA, then Canada would go bankrupt. I do believe that. I think Canada would really, really struggle because a lot of the resources we have actually goes on to be shared with the West, the rest of the country. Let's see what else I've got here. Here it is. Just exactly what you said about the tariffs. So this was Trump posted this on Truth Social. Let's see if I can. It doesn't show when. Benny just posted it today, so it must have been today. He posted it at 9:23 a.m. So this is what Trump says. Drugs are still pouring into our country from Mexico and Canada at a very high and unacceptable levels. A large percentage of these drugs, much of them in the form of fentanyl, are made in and supplied by China. More than 100,000 people died last year due to the distribution of these dangerous and highly addictive poisons. Millions of people have died over the last 2 decades. The families of the victims are devastated and in many instances virtually destroyed. We cannot allow this scourge to continue to harm the USA, and therefore, until it stops or is seriously limited, the proposed tariff scheduled to go into effect on March 4th will indeed go into effect as scheduled. China will likewise be charged an additional 10% tariff on that date. The April 2nd reciprocal tariff date will remain in full force and effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter. May God bless America. Now, Trump is someone who considers his words. I do believe that to certain. Sometimes I think he talks off the top of his head. He does say what he thinks a lot, but when you look at this tweet, until it stops or is seriously limited, the proposed tariff schedule to go into effect. Like this is like the key in this post. continue to harm the USA. Therefore, until it stops or is seriously limited, the proposed tariffs scheduled to go into effect on March 4th. What I would like to see happen in the next week is like a massive attack and war on drugs in Canada. We haven't seen that. The parliament's still pro-rogue. They've announced these things, but there's not even any money to put them into effect. I have seen more, though, the provinces step up to get better at fighting this. But again, Trump is serious about this. So I guess the tariffs are still going into effect March 4th. We'll see what will happen in the next few days. And then he says the April one will be match reciprocal tariff date. So the 25% is not off the table. The 25% will stay, but the reciprocal, that means they'll be even more than 25%. They'll match whatever tariff Canada has on the US. So like beef, milk, Canada has like 200% or something insane like that. So the US is saying they're going to match that. I will just say I prefer Canadian beef over US beef. I will attest to that as someone who had some steaks in the US in Washington DC. I much prefer Alberta beef. But okay, next topic. More than 263,000 Canadians have signed a petition to strip billionaire Elon Musk of Canadian citizenship. There's just one problem. Canada can't do that. The petition, I have it here. I'm going to bring it up on the screen just so you guys can see it. Petition to the Prime Minister. Whereas Elon Musk has engaged in activities that go against national interests of Canada, he has used his wealth and power to influence our elections. He has now become a member of a foreign government that is attempting to erase Canada's sovereignty. The attempts of Elon Musk to attack Canadian sovereignty must be addressed. We, the undersigned citizens of Canada, call upon Prime Minister to revoke Elon Musk's dual citizenship status and revoke his Canadian passport effective immediately. I just find this so idiotic. Because you disagree with someone's political leaning or some of the work that they're doing, or and even it insinuates that that they're attempting to erase Canada's sovereignty. Like because of the 51st state. If anything, I think the only thing that's going to eliminate Canada's sovereignty is is Ottawa actually alienating the West. That affects Canada's sovereignty because now the West wants to separate. So can we ask to revoke Justin Trudeau's Canadian citizenship, or even Mark Carney for that? Anyways, I find this so funny because it just goes, it's a perfect glimpse of the left. I don't like what you say, therefore I'm going to cancel you. Therefore, I'm not going to invite you over for supper anymore. Therefore, I'm not going to be friends with you anymore. I was on a plane with someone who was a conservative, and we were chatting, and he says, "How did you know I was a conservative?" I said, "Because when I started talking about conservative things, you didn't start yelling and getting angry at me." And it's so true. The left can't accept anyone who has different perspective, different opinions. They just want everyone to think the same way they do. And when they don't, they cancel them. They want nothing to do with them. And conservatives don't, however. I'm okay with people having different views as me. I'm okay with liberals having different opinions as me. I'm not going to insult them and tell them you can't be a part of my life or my family or anything like that. But the left does. And that's the difference. This is a classic glimpse into the left's mindset. Think like me, or therefore you are nothing. You are not worth anything. You are not a part of my life. And this is a perfect glimpse into that. Now, with that same subject, there's another person they're trying to cancel for those exact same reason. Wayne Gretzky. Let's go look into that. So Stu Cowan, I don't know who he is, but My column on why Canadians have a good reason to be upset with Wayne Gretzky, who Donald Trump would like to see as governor of Canada. The great one's silence on US president wanting to take over Canada and make it 51st state. It's deafening. Like, even that, you're not talking about it, therefore you must be for it. Maybe he doesn't want to talk about it because it doesn't matter what he says. The fact that he's friends with Trump already has made up your mind about him. You've already canceled him. You've already attempted at canceling him. Again, somebody who has different political opinions, different political leaning, different ideas of how to make Canada better or what direction Canada should go, because it doesn't align with yours, you're going to cancel them. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the cancel culture. I am. I'm so tired of seeing stuff like this, seeing petition to revoke. Who do you think you are? Seriously, who do you think you are that you can revoke someone's citizenship? Really? It's like this mob mentality. Therefore, if there's enough of us, we're going to make it happen. We're going to dehumanize Elon Musk. We're going to dehumanize Wayne Gretzky. Who do you think you are? Oh, this makes me so angry. I'm angry, as the same way Trump said. The only people that I think we should revoke citizenship are people who commit grievous crimes, murders people, terrorist acts. That should revoke. Elon Musk is helping the US do what they were elected to do. He's helping the mandate in the US, and he has the resources to do it. Anyways, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if someone said, wasn't that for Wayne Gretzky pushing the jab, as I read? I don't know if Wayne Gretzky pushed the jab. Even if he did, I still don't think we should revoke his Canadian citizenship. They can have a different opinion than we do. I still don't think that that's like Canadian. It's not Canadian. It's anti-Canadian. It really is. When you start doing that kind of stuff, and that's why I think Canada's broken. This is not the Canada I remember. But this is what Trudeau has made it become. This whole divisiveness, this whole like hate everyone who thinks differently than you. That comes from Trudeau, and it trickles its way down to the bottom. Trudeau has modeled this behavior since he got into office and has only perpetuated it more and more in Canada. And this is what happens when you have leaders who perpetuates this. Canadians have a reason to be upset with Wayne Gretzky. I'm more upset with Stu Cohen. You are not reflecting Canadian values. Gretzky is a free man with free will to share whatever opinion he likes. Just because you may disagree with it doesn't mean a country should have to turn their back on him. When people say Canada is broken, this is yet another example as to why. Yes, exactly that. Now, Trump responded to this. I got another one. Yeah, I have it here. This is what Trump said. Wayne Gretzky is a fantastic guy. They call him the Great One, and he is. He could run for any political office in Canada and win. Wayne is my friend, and he wants to make me happy and is therefore somewhat low-key about Canada remaining a separate country, rather than becoming a cherished and beautiful 51st state. And how this all started, I don't know if you guys remember, but Trump had said Wayne Gretzky should run for governor way back when. It was a tweet. I don't have it, but maybe I could bring it up. But anyways, a beautiful 51st state, paying much lower taxes, a free and powerful military, no tariffs, and having a booming economy. Wayne and Janet, his wonderful wife, love Canada, and they should only support Canada and whatever else makes the Canadian people and Governor Justin Trudeau happy. He's the greatest Canadian of them all, and I'm therefore making him a free agent because I don't want anyone in Canada to say anything bad about him. He supports Canada the way it is, as he should, even though it's not nearly as good as it could be as part of a great and most powerful country in the world, the good old USA. The good old USA. Wayne Gretzky, this is what this guy said, Bradshaw. Wayne Gretzky stood up for Canadians with Trump while Canadians were trying to find a way to erase him from Canada. How do you feel knowing that this Liberal government convinced you to hate Wayne? Now ask yourself, who else is this Liberal government trying to convince you to hate? Time to think for yourself. It's so true. I talked about like how brainwashed Canadians are. You'll have like the Liberal governments and they'll like co-conspire with all of mainstream media to push a specific narrative, and then all of them follow it like sheep. Wayne Gretzky getting canceled, Elon Musk getting canceled, Buy Canadian, Team Canada, hate the truckers convoy, hate the unvaccinated. Like, look at all of the things that you've been led to follow along with in the last 10 years, and how much of that is something you actually believe to your core, or are you just doing it because that's what the popular majority is doing? Like, as someone who was a Trump Wayne Gretzky fan, did you think 5 years ago that you would be signing a petition or wishing Wayne Gretzky lost his Canadian citizenship? Like, can you just stop for a second? Stop following everyone else down the jumping off the cliff. My dad used to say when I was a kid, if everyone jumps off the cliff, Nadine, are you going to jump off the cliff? That was probably like one of the biggest piece of advice that I got from my dad. Don't do what everyone else is doing. Do what is right. Is it right? Like, just stop for a second and think, is it right to try to cancel someone like Wayne Gretzky because he's friends with Trump? Like, really? Anyways, next subject. Let's talk about it. This is huge coming from him. Petition against Gretzky. Pathetic, weak, and little cancel bullies. They do not represent the great Canadian spirit. Pray you never have to go into battle with people like these. They will shoot you in the back first chance they get. Stand tall, 99. So Stockwell Day was, they tried to cancel him back in the day too. And I can't remember what it was. It was like some small comment. And he was like on the board, I think, of Tell Us at the time. He got booted off the board. I just love that Stockwell Day is giving advice to Wayne Gretzky. Okay. This is like a serious subject. World Health Organization. Money got pulled. Let's make it big. I'll share this video with you guys. We're going to watch it together. I just got to adjust the sound here so you can hear it. There you go. We're going to watch this together. I haven't watched it yet.
2 weeks ago, President Donald Trump signed an executive order announcing his intention to withdraw the United States from WHO. The order refers to WHO's alleged mishandling of the COVID-19 pandemic and other global health crises.
You don't say.
Last week marked 5 years since I declared a public health emergency of international concern. From the moment we picked up the first signals of viral pneumonia in Wuhan, we asked for more information, activated our emergency incident management system, alerted the world, convened global experts, and published comprehensive guidance for countries on how to protect their populations and health systems, all before the first death from this new disease was reported in China on the 11th of January 2020. Even before the US announcement, WHO is facing a shortfall due to the economic difficulties that many countries are facing. The US announcement has made the situation more acute.
So they're out of money. I don't mind that. After what they convinced the rest of the world to do during COVID that completely destroyed so many lives. If you're going to talk about cancel culture, that should be one of them. So it's going to be interesting to see. Now, there's another thing that's kind of linked to that a little bit. So there was talks about the the World Health Organization. Something else is being talked about that's quite serious, and that's the Wuhan lab working on a COVID sequel. So I don't know if you've been following this. Elon Musk tweeted here. Let's see. No, it's not there. Oh no, I lost it. Let's see. He quote tweeted this and said, "Is this real? Wuhan lab working on COVID, the sequel, the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Yes, that lab is gearing up for a new experiment on bat versus eerily similar to COVID-19. HKU5-COVID or COV-2 can already infect human cells and is related to a virus with a 30% fatality rate. Now, researchers want to test it on humanized mice because that worked out so well last time. Dr. Alina Chan, a molecular biologist at the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard, called the plans ominous, warning that WIV's biosafety measures are a joke. Yet here they are playing with fire again. What could possibly go wrong? Mike Benz, too, has talked about U.S. aid implicated in Wuhan lab function or lab funding, Afghan heroin production, covert Cuba. I haven't watched that video. Again, I met Mike Benz on last Saturday at this like Doge party thing. I forgot to say, too, the Doge party had protesters outside. I don't know how they knew where it was going to be, but there was a bunch of police officers, and yeah, they were screaming like insane stuff. They did not look like they have super healthy mental health. Let's just say that. What else is there here to cover? This is another video I'll play. It talks about US aid and some of the money that's been going to fund things. I'm just going to play it because, oh, it's 5 minutes. Maybe I won't. We're already an hour into this. So I'll share the tweet anyways, because it does talk about. So it talks about USAID funding actual terrorists. You won't be able to hear the conversation. So if you search Dodge Watch Report, you can watch this video. I'm not going to play it because we're already an hour into this episode and I didn't want it to go too long. But so it talks about, I did watch the first part of it. It talks about how USAID was saying taxpayer funded lobbyists in DC asking for more money for USAID. Basically, well, might as well play it. Let's just do that quick. We'll play the first beginning of it. I won't play the whole one, but
to the Taliban.
Yes, sir.
Can you name other instances of foreign aid going to terrorist organizations?
We have assisted al-Shabaab in Somalia. There's been instances of the Hamzi network in Sudan, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Kataiba Hezbollah, Hayat Tahrir al-Shams in Syria. Dozens of terror organizations have received indirect assistance from U.S. foreign aid.
Could you elaborate a little bit on the mechanisms in place that are to stop foreign aid from going to terrorist groups, and why are they not working if we have any in place? Sure. And I would note that these are, you notice these are terrorist weaponry. You see some AKs, SKSs, some snipers, some clips, some clip carriers, probably made in China. And I believe these are small landmines here beside right there.
Let's use Gaza as our case study. $2.1 billion in American taxpayers' money to Gaza since October 7th when Hamas invaded southern Israel. USAID money was going in terms of an emergency use authorization to try to go to parties that USAID formerly had a relationship with in the Gaza Strip. They had to have been vetted by OFAC. They should have been vetted against the special designated terror list from the State Department and from other Treasury organizations. Waivers were granted because they said that there was an emergency use to have that money come in to Gaza, thereby jettisoning the usual typical screening procedures. As a result, 90% of aid that was going from the United States by way of its agents in Gaza ended up in Hamas-controlled areas. And this is ridiculous. Essentially, what the U.S. assistance to Gaza did was underwrite the ability for Hamas to survive until the ceasefire was just passed a few weeks ago. There was no strategic thought for it, and there was no screening.
Seems like the emergency might have been armed terrorists to kill civilians. Would that be accurate?
That's accurate, and even more than that, Samantha Powers, the administrator for USAID, was intent on having Israel not be able to defend itself.
To not be able to defend it.
Correct.
Mr. Prom.
I'm going to dig into this some more. Probably I'll cover this some more because this is pretty damning. I'll cover this some more tomorrow because I don't want to go too late. Bunny Dirksen asks, before you dig off, can you give your thoughts on the ostriches? I did talk about it a few episodes ago. I did reach out to the lady in charge of the farm. I haven't heard any updates since, but let's just search it really quick. Let's just Google it. Not Google it, but search it on. So my understanding, and this is what I said kind of when I talked about it a little bit, about the ostrich farm. It's not coming. Give me a sec. I didn't write it properly. Ostriches. I'm just trying to find it here. So my understanding is there was 2 birds that died, and they did some tests and they were found to have bird flu. And then they ordered all of 400 birds to be killed because of the bird flu risk, whatever. And then they applied for a injunction to stop that from happening, and the judge granted them that injunction. Now, it was said that the Canadian Food and Inspection Agency were still going to go ahead and kill it or kill them. However, I expressed concerns that I don't think a government agency would go ahead and undermine an injunction to stop something, because that would means that they're arrestable for breaching an injunction. So if that was actually happening, all the people would need to do is call police to have them arrested because they're going against the injunction. So I'm just looking to see if there's any updates on it since. So Save Our Ostriches is an account, I think, in BC. It says the Canadian Food Inspection Agency requires us to submit a daily mortality log to track how many of our own ostriches are dying. Here, I'll share with you this. We're happy to report that it's been 38 days without any death or illness. And people need to understand, too, that this particular ostrich farm also does research. So they do research on evaluating the antibodies of the ostriches through, like, with their eggs and stuff. So even the fact that they were thinking of killing them all, I find that, anyways, it's not happened. Like what I suggested, if there's an injunction to stop it, I don't think government would just go in and still do it. Yeah, these are all old videos. So from my understanding, it's still happened. Like they're still alive. So I did reach out again to the owner of the farm, but I haven't heard back yet. Let's see. Laura, the show started, I think it was like an hour and 10 minutes ago. So the Alberta discussion was like, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes in. So you can probably watch it on the repeat. Like after I do the live show, it shows up on Facebook. You're watching it on Facebook. It'll show up on Facebook. You can go back and watch it. And then I'll be talking about it some more. Like I said, Jonathan's going to come on my show on Saturday. So we'll be talking about Western separatism and the sentiment and stuff and just what our thoughts are on that. Like I said, my husband's a huge like Western separatist, more so than I am. I think he wants me to be where he's at, but yeah, if we'll be talking about it again on Saturdays. So we don't normally have a show on Saturday, but we just decided he really wants to talk about it. And that's one of the things I think he thinks, well, the College of Physicians can't really come after him for that. So we'll do a deep dive into it and what our thoughts are on things when it comes to that. So, but yeah, okay. I will let you guys go. I have an appointment. That's another reason why I want to end the episode a little bit early. And I will be back tomorrow. I don't know what I'll be talking about tomorrow. Probably the Epstein list, because I'm hoping it'll be released. I'm going to do some diving into it, look up the names and stuff. Maybe even profile some of them. For some of you who don't know, I'm a former cop trained profiler. So I'm trained to profile more specifically sex offenders, child sex offenders, so pedophiles. So I'll maybe do some profiling into some of these people and some of the red flags that I might be noticing and stuff. So, and yeah, Bunny says, we're talking about the ostriches again. Bunny says here they are rich in antibodies, which means they would have had the bird flu and now have the antibodies. So that could potentially be used for that could potentially be used for scientific studies. So just the ostrich farm they don't sell the eggs to be eaten. They don't sell the ostriches for meat. They just do it for research. So the idea that they would even kill all of them to begin with. Anyways, I'm going to let you guys go. I will be back tomorrow, probably around 12. And hopefully I'll have the list so I can talk about the Epstein list tomorrow. See you guys. Also, if you don't follow me already, subscribe, do all that thing. You can search me Nadine G. Ness on all social media platform. I post on all of them. And yeah, so just subscribe. See you guys.